Oh man, I just realized I'm wearing a DC hat with a Marvel t-shirt. Maybe my subconscious was trying to tell me something about the duality of man. Hey, well met travelers. Thanks for stopping by my channel. I really appreciate it a lot. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. My name's Bob of the Old Ways, and I just watched a really awesome video by DJ Eric over on his channel, Eric Debunks. I'll put a link in the description so you can go witness this glory for yourself. Eric is responding to the same clip that I'm going to be responding to from a channel called Side Scrollers, who had their guest Gary from Nerdrotic on, where Gary spouted two enormous lies. One of which I'm just going to let Eric respond to himself, and the second of which I will address. Now, the first one concerns a conspiracy theory that Disney has been lying to the public about the budgets of its films, particularly the film Captain America: Brave New World, which they claim cost them $180 million to produce. Gary, in this clip, as you're about to see, tells a pretty egregious lie. And then I'll play just a brief clip from Eric Debunk's video and link it on the screen so you can go watch the whole thing. And then I'll be back with some concluding thoughts about the first clip. So check this out.
You're smart.
Disney didn't know it was going to perform well. That's why they floated out a lie of a $180 million budget. That's just an outright lie. Now, Disney does not have to tell the truth. You hear a lot of people say they have to tell the truth for their investors. Technically, yes, but technically it wouldn't be a lie if you said the budget for the film was $180 million. If you're not specific, that's very open. That could have been the budget for the reshoots. That could have been Harrison Ford's weed bill. That could have been the catering. Right. We don't know. We don't know. So they're not technically lying, but they are lying because the overall budget for the film, which we'll never know, is somewhere in the vicinity of $350 million. In a $180 million Marvel film post Endgame would be the cheapest Marvel movie made by orders of magnitude. And the $100 million marketing would be the lowest they've spent on marketing by orders of magnitude, which is just not true. I've seen Captain America 4 shit everywhere. So the reality is $350 million budget, minimum $150 to $180 million on marketing.
You're smart.
And I'm going to stop you right there. Disney cannot legally lie about the budget. There's no skating around it. There's no sort of smoke and mirrors about it. That does not happen. There's a lot of legal reasons why Disney cannot lie about the budget. The problem is, for these guys, this is one of their biggest grifts. This is one of the biggest grifts that they do to try and extract money and viewership from people here on YouTube, is they make up this concept that Disney, Warner Brothers, any of these companies out there can just make up numbers and go to these outlets and say, this is how much this costs, and it's okay, that it's not illegal. And it absolutely is. It's illegal in so many ways, and we're going to talk about all those here. But the reason why he's pushing back against this, and whether he heard me say it directly or someone in his orbit said, hey, these guys are saying that this is illegal, the only reason he's doing this is because he's going to start pushing back against this because he knows that it's true, but they are so afraid that if people like you out there found out that it is highly illegal for Disney to do and they could not do it, it would ruin their business model. It would ruin what these guys do. So they have to have you believe that Disney can arbitrarily make up numbers and lie about budgets for films without getting in any trouble whatsoever.
Now, like I said, Eric does a great job handling this. I don't really have much more that I can add, except to point out that Gary doesn't really understand math, because that's not how orders of magnitude work, Gary. If something costs $300 million, and another thing costs $180 million, that's the same order of magnitude. For your claim to be true that they're lying by orders of magnitude, they would have to either be spending thousands on a movie or billions to produce a movie when compared to their claim of $180 million. And that's not really relevant to anything except to show that you're kind of an idiot about math too. So let's move on to the real meat and potatoes of the video I made. The one you're watching right now, where I respond to something Gary said in the same video clip about masculinity. He's responding specifically to Anthony Mackie's recent comments about the subject. And maybe I'll share clips from that as well. I don't know. Depends how much time I have. But anyway, check out this clip.
We are smart.
He's 100% right. And it's Hollywood, and it is social. It has been tech companies, Hollywood, our government, the world government, who has eroded masculinity, who has used the term toxic masculinity as a broad term of all masculinity. And that's what's led to dudes thinking they're girls. It's led to a lot of confusion. You couple that with, man, your brother's been amazing on this, on COVID, on how that's broken so many people. That's played into this too. But the erosion of masculinity is something that was actually planned. This is a planned thing. And it's because there is a sect of people who actually believe a matriarchy would be better. That's a small sect, but it exists. And it really exists in Hollywood. And it's also, who runs Hollywood? The gays. And so like there's been that eroding masculinity, and they've just driven all the, I'll stay in my lane in Hollywood. They've driven all the masculine talent away. That like they're just gone. So what's missing from Star Wars? Masculinity. What's missing from Star Trek? What's missing from Doctor Who? What's missing? Masculinity. What is Harry Potter filled with? Written by a woman. Masculinity.
We are smart.
Now, I want you to lay aside for a moment the irony that you just received a lecture on masculinity from a guy who makes his living by sitting in a room full of toys and complaining about Disney movies. And I want you instead to invoke Hitchens' razor, which is the principle that something which is asserted with no evidence can be dismissed on equal evidence. Gary's claim here that Hollywood is purposely eroding masculinity in pop culture is just a fantasy. There's nothing to it. There's no evidence for this whatsoever. Just like his claim about Disney lying about their film budgets. Both of these are rooted in Gary's conspiratorial framework. He's a conspiracy theorist. And unlike a lot of his compatriots over in the so-called Fellowship, a name they really need to keep out of their mouths, I think Gary is kind of sincere when it comes to this. He really does believe in a secret cabal of moral degenerates trying to turn everyone's kids trans or something. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it's still a lie. And it's a lie on which he benefits financially. So even if he didn't believe it, he would still say it. And that's the real crux of the matter here. Gary thinks you are stupid, as Eric pointed out in his video about this. Gary has a business model built on the narrative that Hollywood is run by a secret cabal of moral degenerates, possibly Satan worshipers, possibly all PDF files, who knows. But their agenda is murky and ever-changing. He moves the goalposts all the time. For this video, it was because they want to create a matriarchy and engage in social engineering or something to turn everyone gay. I don't know. But that's just ridiculous. Look, the only thing that motivates decisions in Hollywood at the level of the studios is money. That's it. They're capitalists. They will do what they think will make their studios the most money. If they think DEI is the path to that, they will do DEI. If they think DEI is not the path to that, they will abandon it instantly, as we are now seeing now that Trump is back in power. These people have no principles. They just want money, just like Gary has no principles and only wants money. So Gary should be able to understand their mindset very well. So his comments about masculinity are ridiculous. There is no crisis of masculinity. That, too, is a marketing gimmick designed to exploit the alienation of young men, particularly young white men. The reason you're alienated is because you can't afford to have a social life anymore. Hobbies cost money. Some hobbies always cost money, but now all of them do, and they cost a lot more money than they used to. Nobody can afford anything anymore. We can't have social lives. We can't have a dating life because everything is too expensive. And that is fundamentally why you feel alienated. If you're a young man, you're not alone in that. Everyone is experiencing this. Your allies are gay people and women and people of color. Solidarity is the answer to your crisis, not hyper masculinity or whatever this is. Look, the bottom line, as Eric said, is that Nerdrotic, Gary, just doesn't want a black Captain America, but he's too embarrassed to admit that. So he has to spin up a narrative that will trick people into thinking that he's not what he appears to be, which is a mouthpiece, willing or unwilling, for the Christian nationalist movement. The function of his content is to whitewash and launder Christian nationalist talking points for an apolitical secular audience. It's to trick them into thinking that far right-wing politics and Christian nationalist talking points are just everyday common sense. And he does that by constantly repeating these talking points over and over again until it just becomes what people are used to hearing. It creates new neural pathways in their brains that connect talking points like woke or Mary Sue or girl boss or forcing an agenda, etc., with their identity as fans of something. It's very insidious, and I'm not sure how consciously aware Gary is of what he's doing in that regard, but it doesn't matter. The function of his content, whether he personally believes in Christian nationalism or not, is to turn all of you into political agents of Christian nationalism who think they're apolitical. Gary thinks you are a moron. So don't let him have what he wants. Reject his nonsense, lean into solidarity with people who are doing the work of liberation, and enjoy media on your own terms. So I've said my piece. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say. If you did, you know what to do. Make all the offerings to the great God algorithm. Until next time, remember that what's best in life is to crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and engage in discourse with the women. Thanks for watching.